We investigated the meaning of green and the Green Knight in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. We found several articles that offer possible meanings of the color green in the story. After we present the different possible ideas, we will give our group opinion on the meaning of the color green and the Green Knight.
One interpretation of the color green in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is that the color green and the Green Knight are both used to symbolize the abundance of life through the vegetation of the land, while also being a symbol for death. The color green has many shades displayed in the natural world. The green color of a leaf will transition as it goes from life to death when its greenness starts to fade away. The article that supports the viewpoint that green symbolizes life and death states, in both the medieval romance and Cervantes' work, however, green knights do serve as transitional icons in a hero's vital journey, and this role as intermediaries coincides with an aspect of the traditional symbolism of the color green. For green is an intermediary or transitional color in the color scale, and it is the color of both vegetation and therefore of life, and also of corpses and therefore of death. Sir Gawain travels through a forest of abundant green life to face the Green Knight, who he believes may ultimately cause his death. Overall, this article supports that green is used to symbolize the transition from life to death.
In his essay, Moral Theology in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, the Pentangle, the Green Knight, and the Perfection of Virtue, David M. Beauregard writes about the symbols of the Pentangle and the Green Knight. He believes that the symbol of the Pentangle is obvious compared to the mysterious symbol of the Green Knight. He first lists other interpretations of the meaning of the Green Knight symbol. Quote, "The Green Knight can be taken to signify a particular knightly virtue, conceived along profoundly Christian and Thomistic lines. In past years, various interpretations of the Green Knight have been offered. He has been viewed as a representation of the Green Man, as a personification of death, as the devil, as an otherworldly creature, and as the Word of God." Then Beauregard gives his own opinion of the meaning of the symbol. What does the color of the Green Knight signify? Why does the Green Knight carry a branch of holly and an axe? Why does he challenge Arthur's court unarmed? These questions are best answered, I think, by the thesis that the Green Knight represents Christ and, in suffering himself to be beheaded, the perfect act of fortitude, martyrdom. To establish the likelihood of such an interpretation is not difficult. Within the poem itself, a parallel representation of categorically similar meanings exists in the Pentangle, which, among other things, stands for Christ's wounds and 5 knightly virtues. In itself, this is enough to establish the plausibility of such an interpretation.
So in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, green is a symbol of his imperfection, and this poem really deals with exclusive and abundant colors of red and green, and red is the color of Gawain's symbol of perfection, and like the red gold pentacle on a red field, it appears 10 times, and green is associated with the Green Knight and ultimately is a symbol of Gawain's imperfection, and it appears 51 times in the poem, and according to Heatt's study, it indicates multiple of 5 indicate perfection, while imperfection is signaled by the addition or subtraction of the number 1.
Okay, so in Stephen Manning's A Psychological Interpretation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, he states that the ambivalence is seen immediately in the color green, which is a symbol of earthly or material life as opposed to the life of the spirit, but it is also the color of hope and rebirth. Thus, although the Green Knight represents the dark or evil side of the personality, he contains within himself the possibilities of self-knowledge.
Okay, so my article is entitled Symbolism of the Color Green in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And the author starts off talking about that the author of the book could have chosen red for strength or power, or purple for royalty and wealth, but instead he chose green. And green is also really, really apparent in the story because the Green Knight has tinted green skin and features, and there's the green holly branch and the green axe, and there's also a green horse. So, in general, green is known to stand for peace, restfulness, harmony, lust, love, fertility, and nature. And so in this article, the author argues that green is correlated in the story with nature and lustfulness. So, nature. Nature's really unpredictable and hard to control in some cases, as is the Green Knight. The Green Knight was really unpredictable when he came to Sir Arthur's court and challenged any of the knights who were brave enough to take him on. Also, nature can cause natural disasters, and the Green Knight kind of was seemingly sort of like a natural disaster at the beginning of the book, at least, when it was just assumed that he rode through towns and cities and just kind of destroyed anything in his way or killed anyone in his way. On the other hand, with lustfulness, the Green Knight lived in a castle that looked like it had emerged right out of nature or right out of the ground. And inside the castle, the wife of the Green Knight wore a green gown, which symbolizes lust. And she gives Gawain her green girdle, which is supposed to keep Gawain away from harm. And he does not give the girdle to the Green Knight because the girdle is supposed to protect his life. And so Sir Gawain passes the knight's test but wears the girdle because of the shame he feels for not being virtuous to the Green Knight. So here the color of green represents the love of life because Gawain values his life and wants the girdle to protect him. So at the end of the poem is the climax where Gawain and the Green Knight meet together at the chapel. And the chapel is the most natural and spontaneous of the locations in the poem, so it's the perfect meeting place for the Green Knight. And so initially the chapel is meant for death of Gawain, but it ends up bringing a new meaning to Gawain's life, which is like a renewal of his life. He gets a second chance. So he wears the green girdle to remind him of lust and the unpredictability of his journey that he's taken over the past year.
Overall, we agree that based on the evidence in a few of our articles, the color green and the Green Knight are both symbols of hope, rebirth, and Gawain's imperfection.